Hey everybody, Crooooow back again, and I'm making this video because I picked up something I didn't think I was going to pick up. I actually went ahead and bought an Evercade. As you can see, this is the premium pack. It comes with 3 cart bundles in it. We got the Atari Collection 1, the Interplay Collection 1, and the Data East Collection 1. Now, before I go ahead and open this, whatever possessed me to buy this? Because people have asked me on my channel in the past if I was excited for the Evercade or was I going to get the Evercade. And I said, you know what? I don't think so. And my logic for that was that these are all games I can play already on any device that I own. These are all ROMs I could just load on my phone. I could, if I hacked my PSP, could play them on the PSP. I could play them on my tablet and just play the same games. But I think the collector in me just couldn't, I just was sitting there thinking, it'd be nice to play something on a handheld. And then I've been watching Open Every Box with Pete, OEB Pete, and he's a big Evercade fan. And I started watching his videos, and then I went back and watched the Metal Jesus Rocks video. And then I watched My Life in Gaming's video. I saw all these pros and cons. There were people that were really for it, people that were really against it. And I thought to myself, well, let me look it up. And I looked up on Amazon, and in the end, this wound up being way cheaper than I thought it was. This pack, the expensive pack with the 3 game collection, is $100, $99.99. I bought it on Amazon. And the fact that each of the additional packs are $20, I mean, you could buy a single pack as well, but that's only like $20 less, $79.99. And you might as well spend the extra $20 and get basically a free game pack. Even though I've been selling off a lot of my collection over the years, I still like to collect things. So I might have to go through, and since each cart pack, each one of these packs is $20. That's really cheap, and I may want to just collect them all in the end. So with that, let's open this up and see. I mean, 2 things surprised me, really. One, I thought it was $200. I don't know why I thought that the bundle pack was $200. That's one of the reasons why I kind of avoided this. And 2, I thought this was smaller than it actually is. So yeah, you could just play these games on any old device, modded devices, or even just one of those super cheap Chinese knockoff things, just load it full of ROMs. You can do that. But there are a couple things that I saw that lead me towards wanting something more official. And I'll get to those as we see them. I mean, I'm making an unboxing, but I'm like 2 months late. Everybody who was really into the Evercade got theirs day one like 2 months ago. But again, it got me seeing that within those 2 months, they've updated the firmware in this thing many times. Well, like 3 times to fix issues. So it seems like they're not just shooting this thing out there and forgetting about it. They're working towards more game packs. The Atari Lynx game packs I heard about that are coming out for this, I'm really interested in. Some of the game packs I kind of was interested in. I looked on Amazon and they're unavailable, but I heard that they would be trying to keep those in stock, so we'll see. I'm not in any hurry to get any particular game pack. I mean, I really have to try out this thing first. So we open it up. I mean, it says on the front here, ready to play again, which makes me wonder, hey, can I just play this thing right out of the box? So we got our quick start guide, which nobody reads, and yeah, so this thing is bigger than I thought it would be, which is a good or bad thing. I don't know. I really don't know. In my mind, I was thinking at first, maybe, it would be easier if this thing was smaller. If it was smaller, it'd be easier to fit in your pocket, but as it is, I could probably fit this in my pocket. Yeah, super easy. But then again, I have pants with super large pockets. I could even fit the regular size Switch in there. Seems decent enough. I mean, I've heard complaints about the screen. We'll see about that. I've heard complaints about the HDMI port. Here's the cartridge slot again. And I heard this came in 2 colors. I've only seen the white one. I've seen a picture of the black one, and to be honest, I think the white one looks better. I don't know how the D-pad will be. I typically not a big fan of D-pads like this, but who knows. you know, like the Genesis style D-pads. I was more of a fan of the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, just crossbars, or the way the PlayStation does it. So, you know, we'll see how well the D-pad is, especially for games where you're only really going 4 directions. But yeah, I mean, it's not that heavy. I don't know how this compares. In fact, before I continue any further, let me grab my PSP. So yeah, this is a PSP 2000. The Evercade is just slightly bigger, but it's got the same size screen. I heard it might actually be the same screen. I don't know. But let's see what else is in this box here. In fact, let's just wait. Before we do that, I wonder if it turns on. I assume that's a power switch. Yep. And it turned right on. There's some charge in there at least. I don't think it goes to... No. Oh, there we go. Evercade. So that's your boot up. I know. What does it do when it boots up with no cartridge in? It says, please insert cartridge. Wow, 3/4 of the of power. So you could actually just start playing this. It's pretty loud. We'll turn it off. And see what else we got in this box. I know there's 3 games in here. And this is one of the reasons why I was really interested in this. I like the physical media. I like that they're clamshells. And what's funny is I thought that these were bigger at first until I saw some other videos. I thought they were the same size as a Genesis clamshell. But as you can clearly see, that is not the case. I mean, you could even fit this inside this if it wasn't for the cartridge in there, probably. So we got, I mean, and there were games on every single one of these collections that I really was interested in playing on the go. And even though that these are mostly NES versions of it, I still like Burger Time. Side Pocket looked pretty cool. Oh, is that Joe? And I think this is the one that has Joe and Mac 2 in there. Interesting why Joe and Mac 1 isn't on there. The Atari collection has at least 3 games on here I was really interested in. The Atari 7800 game Ninja Golf is on here, and Food Fight. And those were 2 of my favorite games. And they were the things that kept me selling the Atari 7800 for a long time, was those 2 games. So it's really nice to have those 2, or at least official copies of those again. We'll see how much all those plays. And also Video Pinball is another one of my favorites. And then on the Interplay collection, I like Interplay. This one's got Earthworm Jim, so I'm interested in trying that one out again. And a couple other games that when I was watching videos, seemed pretty interesting. So, looks like we also get a cable in here. Looks like to plug it into a USB, so they're giving you a micro USB. I just kind of wish that everything was USB-C these days, and I don't know why that isn't the case. Everything is starting to go towards USB-C, so if I had one complaint right off the bat, I just kind of wish this ran off a USB-C, but not a big deal. So let's open these up. So I've taken the shrink wrap off, and before I go any further, I want to see the spines, because we've got numbers 1, 3, and 4. See, I don't know why. I guess Collection 2 would be Atari Collection 2. But it's kind of weird that right off the bat you have 1, 3, and 4. So now for my OCD, my minor OCD, I might have to get number 2 just so I have the second one. But opening these up, this is another reason why I kind of was into this. I just like the care and attention they've put in these things. They've got the cartridge here, but also the manual. Something that a lot of companies don't even bother with these days. Full color manual, no less. All about how the game, well, not about the game and how to play the game on the Evercade. But yeah, I just like the full color manual, the quick reference for how to play the game. So that's the Atari Collection 1. We've got the Data East Collection 1. And Interplay Collection 1. So this manual seems a little bit thinner. There's a little bit less games in this one. But yeah, as you can see, the Atari Collection 20 games, Data East Collection 10 games, and the Interplay Collection 6 games, 36 games right out of the box. I would say, how can you beat that? But you could beat that with 37 games. But that's not all, because this wasn't the only thing I bought. Because I went ahead and bought, when I bought the system, Technos Collection 1 too, because of the beat-em-ups on this thing, especially River City Ransom. I had to get the one that had River City Ransom in there, So I really like, I never played the game as much as I should, and now maybe I will. I don't know what possessed me. Also one day I was like, I wish I had that Evercade, and I just went ahead and bought it. And I was like, I looked it up and I was like, $100? Why did I think this thing costed more? And I was like, what am I got to lose? Go ahead and get it. And yeah, so I do have 4 packs right now, and now that I'm looking at it, this is number 10. So I have quite a bit to go between 4 and 10. We'll see if I want to or am able to buy them all, because I don't want to really buy them all at once. I'll probably buy them one at a time every so often. I can see myself buying 2 packs a month. I don't know if I want to go any further like that. But let's grab the Atari Collection one and just pop this in. Oh, it just kind of flew out of there. So I heard there was also a little bit of issue with... Oh, that's the interesting thing too, is that on the labels themselves, the sticker is on the part that goes against the cartridge. And then they've printed on the back also what it is. So when you insert the cartridge, I also heard that, yeah, it could be a little bit tight to get in there at first. Yeah, that is kind of snug. Let's just see if we can get it out really. Yeah, it's a little bit snug, but not impossible. I think it does work its way a little bit once you use it a little bit more and more. I'm not going to go too much into the gameplay right now. I just wanted to do this first part of the video as an unboxing. I'll just do a little bit of a quick gameplay here, just to at least see it boot up and stuff. And second part of this video will be a couple days later after I've played it for a bit. Okay, let's try... Oh, sorry. Do I have to... Okay, there we go. Let's try Food Fight. Because... Oh, you know, there's one other thing I wanted to try, too. But, Oh, yeah. 7800 version of Food Fight is one of my favorite versions. But yeah, if we do that, let's see what's in settings, screen ratio, original size. Okay, at least it defaults to that. Oh, that's the other thing. I'm going to have to go and update the firmware on this as well. Original size. Okay, so there's a... That's legal and support. I don't know how I could find what firmware I have right now. But before I actually do much more of anything else, the first thing I'm going to do is upgrade the firmware, because I think that will need to be done to fix a bunch of things. I want to see one thing really quick. Let's grab here we go. Let's grab a 2600 game video pinball, because what I'm curious about... Oh, didn't hit. Okay, A. Because what I'm curious about is if... What buttons... Okay, these are difficulty... I turn... What the... What the hell's going on here? Okay, select is actually the game select. Which one is the difficulty switches? Because the difficulty switch is on right now. How do I turn it off? Well, maybe the manual says. Yeah, where is the difficulty? And I could tell, like, if I put it at this angle, I could tell that the... You know, the screen's not bad. It really isn't. Well, again, I am looking at just like 3 colors here. Viewing angle, I got to tilt it pretty far to see something weird. But yeah, I can't imagine playing it like this though. But yeah, I hit the trigger here, and that turned on difficulty switch B. But how do I undo it? Because you could turn the difficulty on, but then you can't turn it. I guess that's something I'll have to figure out. Maybe something in the firmware update will fix that. But yeah, this is just the first part of the video, and yeah, I will continue to play this and come back. All right, I'm back. I've had the Evercade now for almost 2 weeks. I've been playing it on and off again, and I've got some positives and some nitpicks and negatives about this device. But overall, I'm really glad I bought this. I'm really enjoying it. Now, again, I know I could have just bought one of those cheap Chinese handheld devices, thrown in an SD card, and loaded it up with ROMs. But the only problem I have with doing that is that then I'd have so many games to play, I wouldn't know what to play. I've done the same thing with the Arcade 1-Up. I have a Street Fighter 2 Arcade 1-Up, and kind of the first chance I got, I threw a PC in there, loaded it up with Launchbox and, 14,000 games, different platforms and everything. And the biggest problem I have when I sit down to play it is like, what do I play? And, you know, sometimes I can't decide for half an hour. With this, you've got these little curated collections, and you just pop in and, you know, select one of 20 games at best, and away you go. But let's just start out with, I like the design of this thing. I like the white with the red stripes. Some people said they didn't like it, it looked cheap, but to me it reminds me of like a Radio Shack device from the 80s, early or late 80s. I don't really know. I think mid 80s maybe. Yeah, I really like the design. I've seen the black one, and from what I looked up, the black one was a limited edition. There's like only a couple hundred of those that exist, I believe. But I still like the white one more. The D-pad was something I wasn't sure about, but I could say that I really like the D-pad. This D-pad is really solid, no problems with it at all. I've never had any problems with these buttons. Some people I know had problems sometimes hitting these buttons while they're really getting into the game. But I can say that in 2 weeks, I had not once hit any of these buttons on accident. So that just may be the way I'm holding it. The only problem I have with the device on a whole are these shoulder buttons. I feel like they're too light. I think there's like featherweight micro switches in here, and I really think they should have gone with something a little bit more resistive. Because when I do hold the device like this, I have a tendency to accidentally hit those triggers a lot. I almost want to take this apart and see if I can replace those switches with something a little bit sturdier. But that brings me to another thing, is I've never seen, I looked specifically to see if there were videos on disassembling this thing, and I couldn't find any. When I started looking at it, I noticed there were no, a little smudge on the back, it came right off. There were no screw holes in the back, which means that this kind of just snaps together, and I almost want to, put a screwdriver in there and see if I could pry it apart just to see what I could see inside of it. But who knows? Maybe I'll do that in the future. I don't really want to do that unless I know what's inside, which is why I wanted to see the video first. But it almost makes me wonder, like, if I drop this thing from a high height, if it's just gonna maybe come apart and then you snap it together. We do have the volume up and volume down buttons. No real problem with that. I just almost wish it was a dial. And that's primarily because when you do hit these buttons, there's no indicator on the screen that shows how loud the volume is or not. So you just kind of have to go with the volume of the bloops as you hit the buttons. I do like the on-off switch. It's an actual switch instead of a push button. For battery life, I couldn't really tell you because I have a tendency to only play for like an hour or two at a time, and then right away I plug it back in. So I really couldn't give you any input on that. The screen, I heard a lot of people didn't like the quality of the screen, and yeah, it's not the best quality screen at all. But honestly, I had no problems with it when I did play, and that's primarily because I have a tendency to go look at it dead on, and I don't really adjust it. Like, there are some games where it's more obvious than others. When you turn it, the contrast kind of goes out of whack, even if you turn it a little bit. And it's mostly like Atari 2600 games where that happens. But honestly, I didn't even notice it until I looked for that issue. And that's because when I'm playing it, I'm looking at it dead on. I'm not really playing it at an angle. So again, that could be a negative for you if you were looking at it and you want a perfect screen that looks perfect at any angle. That's not going to be this. But again, I'm looking at it and I don't really have a problem. There were some people with the HDMI out, the mini HDMI to the TV, had some issues with it connecting and disconnecting. And I did encounter that issue. And I don't know why, for some reason, if it's detects or not detects that, why the system needs to shut off and reboot. It's like it needs to go through a completely different video processor or something like that. Like every time it disconnects. I mean, they could maybe set something in place where if that does happen, it automatically saves your state so you could jump back in and where you left off instead of just, just leaving you high and dry. But the thing I noticed is, like, I had a mini HDMI to HDMI and an adapter that you plug the regular HDMI in, and both of those I kind of had that issue. It didn't happen often, but it would happen. So I was like, well, maybe it's the quality of these things. And I went on Amazon and I bought higher quality stuff. I bought this. This is in a 2-pack, and it's nice and metal. It's solid. And I got 2 of these for like $15, and it's like 10 feet of cable too. And then I also bought this this adapter, and the reason I bought this is mini HDMI to HDMI. And the reason I bought this one is because when you plug it in, it just hangs down naturally. So like even if it tugs, it's not going to wobble too much. And to be honest, I played with both of these for quite some time attached to my TV, and I never encountered that issue once. So if there are problems with, you know, the HDMI disconnecting or whatnot, it's the cable itself. Now granted, the device should work with all cables, I believe, even the cheapest ones you can find, the ones that maybe aren't the sturdiest. But that's just a solution that I came up with. Hey, better cables and you don't have that issue. Aside from that, the nitpicks I have with how some of the games are curated for this device. I'm going to specifically focus in on the Atari Collection 1 and 2. Because, I didn't mention it, but while I was playing it, I did buy the Atari Collection 2 because I thought that this may have been the number 2 that I was missing. But then when I got it and I saw number 5, I was like, oh, wait a minute. And I looked. It turns out the number 2 cartridge is the Namco Collection. And I don't know if I get the numbering or not. Old Atari cartridges used to do that before they gave up. So I wonder if they're going to give up the numbering sequence of it at some time. But but when it comes to curation and putting these games on the cartridges, I know in some cases they're modifying ROMs to work with the device. I know there's some paddle games that they converted so you can use the D-pad instead. But there's some minor slips here and there that I noticed that I just want to nitpick about. Like with the Atari Collection 1. When you think of Atari 2600 games, especially the older ones, you've got, the select game, you've got the start the game, and then you've got the difficulty left and right switches, A and B, the toggles. Now those toggles are completely inaccessible in these games, except for, you saw in the earlier part of this video pinball, where I accidentally hit the trigger and it activated difficulty A, and I couldn't figure out how to get it back. Well, it turns out I don't believe that's even supposed to happen. So if you accidentally hit that trigger, the only way to get it back to difficulty B is to exit the game and come back into it. Which also makes me wish there was like just a restart game in the menu, which there isn't. You kind of have to exit and go back in. It seems kind of weird. So that kind of thing kind of slipped through the cracks, I believe. And I did send Evercade an email about it. I contacted on my website. I know they got it because I got a message, an automated message back saying that they would possibly get back to me in 24 hours, but I never heard back about it. So I don't know if this is a known issue or not. I tried looking it up online and I couldn't find anything about the issue other than difficulty switches aren't a thing in these curated Atari collections. But they could have easily, what I would have liked is if they would have put that as options in the menu, and maybe potentially it could do that as a firmware update so you could add the difficulty levels. But again, you do get a nice manual, but for the Atari games, the manual is almost useless in terms of information, because some of these games, like Asteroids, have 66 game variations. And the only way you would know that is if in the manual, you could look at the grid and you'd know which game variation is what, which brings me up to something I'm thinking about doing, and that is creating something like this, which I temporarily, this little card to throw in there with the game grid. This is a really bad selection. I'd have to redo this to make it more readable. But this is just the copy from the scan of the booklet and shrunk down just so I could have it without looking online what the different game variations are. So I think that information should have been included, but it seems like it was maybe one of those things that was overlooked. Just going backwards a little bit, what I should have mentioned is I did update the firmware. I never did find out where the firmware information was, at least on the firmware that I had, but I did update it to firmware 1.2, I believe it is. and that supposedly eliminates a lot of the issues with the HDMI to TV and the awkward sound and everything. And to be honest, I did not have that issue at all after I did the firmware update. To be honest, I never tried it before the firmware update, so I never had that issue. But what I did have was this low volume sound. Like, I was like, the volume's really low. Why is that? And I kept turning the volume all the way up. And then it occurred to me, it's like, wait a minute, I don't control the volume for the TV on the device itself, do I? And yeah, you have to up the volume on this device to get higher volume out of your TV, which doesn't seem like it should have worked that way. It should have just been a flat signal to the TV and just let the volume on the TV control the game. So that was kind of weird. That's kind of a weird thing. But then other little nitpicks I noticed, and I'm going to pick on Atari Collection 1 here, and I don't know if this is like this for all the cartridge collections or not. Focus in on that, please. There we go. These games, at first glance, are in alphabetical order. So you got A's and C's and B's and F's and M's, and the 7800 games are mixed in with the 2600 games, which I would argue they should have been kind of in separate categories or something. But look at first game, Alien Brigade, and then the next game is Adventure. Well, if you think about it, alphabetically, Adventure should come before Alien Brigade, so they're not really in alphabetical order. But, and again, here we got Crystal Castle, and then the next game is Centipede. Shouldn't Centipede come before Crystal Castle? So it's like they only organized the game just by the first letter, and then randomized everything after the first letter, so it didn't matter. And then the second nitpick I have concerning this Atari Collection 1 is, okay, look at the screenshots. All of them are 4:3 aspect ratio, pretty nice and everything, until we get to Video Pinball. For some reason, this one is in a stretched aspect ratio. It's a nitpick, but that's something that I feel should have, been noticed and caught, especially since there's 20 games in this collection and you have this menu. Why isn't this the appropriate aspect ratio as everything else? I'm looking at this footage while I'm editing it, and it doesn't look like the screenshot for Aquaventure is the correct aspect ratio either. Again, those are minor nitpicks, but it kind of like lowers the quality of the device, again, which is not a high quality device. Just the menus and everything, somebody would have had to gone through and noticed all that stuff. It's 20 things to proofread and make sure look correct, and that was not correct, but somehow slipped through and wound up on the cartridge. Now I wonder if these things can be fixed in an update, firmware update or something like that, or a future cartridge revision. It's not that important. It doesn't stop me from enjoying the game or anything. But again, it still seems kind of weird that that whole trigger for video pinball activating difficulty A is there. I don't know, that blows my mind. Also with Steeplechase, this is a paddle game, but the main function is just the button to jump over the hurdles, but they kind of left out the dial part of the game, which was to adjust how high to jump or like how short your jump is or anything. Because supposedly, and I'm not very familiar with Steeplechase at all, but when I was looking at the manual for Steeplechase, you're supposed to be able to use the dial to adjust your height for smaller objects or bigger objects, and I assume that the smaller objects, if you jump smaller, you're going to hit the ground and you're getting more speed. But they've left it to where it's always the maximum jump every time, and that may make it more difficult to succeed in the higher levels of the game. But yeah, overall I really enjoy this device. I really haven't tried it outside, so I couldn't tell you how the sun affects the screen or anything. I was just kind of mainly indoors playing it, which is why I bought it. Like if I was just sitting down, it's like I'd see it sitting there, I'd be able to grab it and play a quick game or two. Especially the Atari Collection, even though I have a bunch of other cartridges, I was mainly focusing on the Atari Collection 1. And I just literally got the Collection 2, so I really haven't played too much of that. But I do probably want to make a separate video for each of these collections in the future. Maybe go into a little bit more detail on that and what I think of each of the games and how they translate on this device. So yeah, again, I think this device is a good one. I'm probably going to collect more cartridges. I might want to get them all. There's not that many right now. And I could very easily afford getting them as they come out, as long as I get caught up with the ones that are out. But Again, I know I can understand people thinking that this is a waste of money. I really do, because you know there are other cheaper devices out there that you could get Chinese made or whatever. I think they're cheaper. I don't know if they're cheaper or the same price, but then you could just insert an SD card in there and load up whatever ROMs you want. I understand that. But for me, I'm enjoying this because, I don't know, maybe there's just something with my brain that's wired that it's cartridge-based games. It's something to collect. It's a hobby. And that's what gaming to me is. It's a hobby. It's not a way of life or anything. So, it's bringing back game collecting. And it's really cheap to do. When you compare, these game cartridges costing $20 each compared to buying a Switch game for $40 to $60. Why am I saying $40? $60, or a PS4 and Xbox One games for $60. Of course, you could buy those cheaper. But again, you're getting manuals with these. This seems like a little bit more care is going into these, whereas with all those modern consoles, it's guaranteed that those games are going to be just digital too, and it's almost as if the physical releases are kind of an afterthought, because they don't give you anything with those now, unless you're getting it from like limited run or special reserve, where they're doing a little bit more care and attention to those things. And again, I just like, collecting. I guess it's a little bit in my blood, I guess. So I like the fact that these cartridges are coming out, and I'm really looking forward to like the Atari Lynx collections that are coming out. And I actually have those pre-ordered, and I have the Namco collection pre-ordered, and I'm gonna try and get my hands on Namco collection 2 for sure. Like I said, all the other ones, but those are the ones I'm focusing on right now. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I don't know if I've said that, but I probably have like 50 times already. And we'll leave it at that. So thanks for watching. See you all next time. Bye.